Everybody, welcome to the Cumberland County Commissioners Workshop meeting. Before we start, we have a public hearing on program budget modifications. Kate,
Good morning. Two small revisions that we're recommending for the county's community development block grant program. The first is to cancel 2014 activity public facility Shippensburg Township Park Improvements third ball field. The township actually requested that we redirect these funds to their playground equipment project at $4,000. So we're recommending that revision to 2014 program. And also canceling 2015 CPG activity public facility New Visions rehabilitation in the amount of $45,000. New Visions decided to expand this project and they're going to apply for funding, and they have applied for funding in 2017. And so we're recommending the redirection of those dollars to a new activity, acquisition New Home Ministries. As most of you know, the New Home Ministries has acquired property in Cumberland for a second industrial location. And so we're recommending an additional $45,000 to that project. The total allocated to New Hope for this project is about $120,000, which represents only 24% of the total acquisition cost for their facility. And that's consistent with what the county has provided for acquisition projects in the past. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions or take any public comment on this to recommended additions.
Is New Hope going to be doing pretty much the same stuff in its new location that it does in its?
Yes.
Kate, you answered the question that I had. I'd forgotten how much to produce in grant. Answer that question. I have no questions. Jim? Thank you.
Okay, welcome everybody to the 20th, 2016 Cumberland County Commissioners Workshop meeting. Please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 9:04 p.m. Open the floor to public comment. Hearing none and seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3. Call on Keith Brennan, our solicitor, review of resolution 2016-26 regarding the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners designating signatories for transfer and acceptance of vehicles.
Commissioners, this is a resolution that authorizes now the chief clerk and deputy chief clerk to sign documentation necessary for either the transfer of titles to county vehicles, trailers, vehicles that have titles, or to accept those types of items, and also sign the documents for those. It's one of administrative ease for you. You don't have to go down to the title agent for the state. So I've included those two positions to do that. You're welcome.
Yeah, and I do notice though too, I mean, again, if either Sandy or Larry would be available, the commissioners are still signatories, so
Absolutely.
that's fine.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Keith. Moving on to item number 4, the miracle of video teleconferencing technology. We have a hearing, discussion joint venture contribution agreement regarding contribution to Cumberland County's portion of the startup of Comprehensive Care Connections, C3, a nonprofit organization formed for the purpose of contracting with managed care organizations. Andy.
That's unmuted. Good morning, Commissioner.
Much better.
Yes, this is a joint, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. This is a joint venture agreement between Cumberland County and Community Services and Comprehensive Care Connections. This has been formed, this not-profit corporation has been formed by the AAA networks for the purpose of contracting with the managed care organizations, which will begin in July of 2017 in the state, Cumberland County will become a part of managed care in Pennsylvania in 2019. This is a binding agreement with Cumberland County's cost assessed at $17,139. That's in Exhibit D of the contract, and is assessed by the number of waiver consumers that we currently have. Any questions?
And Sandy, you had presented this in our previous, one of our previous finance meetings.
Correct.
Are there any questions for Sandy?
Yeah, just I think it's, from the initial, we got a little bit of feedback. I just wanted to make a point that the number is going up a little bit because we have some additional folks in the waiting room. But the other question I wanted to ask Sandy was this is a one-time cost, correct?
That is right, and the number actually, they just had to pick a date and time, and that's how the number ended up at that 17,000. I think at finance meeting we talked about almost 16,000, but it's based absolutely on the number of waiver consumers we currently have, and each county has been assessed in that way.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Sandy? All right, Sandy, take that feedback, thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to item number 5, we're again calling Kate Molinaro, discussion of the revisions to the county's community development block grant book.
I would just recommend that the commissioners authorize the recommended revisions that were discussed during the public hearing.
We can do that Monday.
Yes, that's fine.
Just want to, I have one additional question, Kate, is do we have any information yet on, the award of federal funds for community development block grant in the next 2017?
We do not have, in the last month or so, has recommended that we wait until we get our allocation to submit the county's annual plan. As you know, we normally submit that in November, but they've instructed us to wait to submit until we actually get our allocation. I'm not anticipating that until after new Congress is elected and sworn in.
Okay. And you'll keep us surprised as to the impact of Hammond Township's withdrawal?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 6, calling Bob DeGrosso regarding resolution 2016-27, regarding the Board of Commissioners of the County of Cumberland, requesting and authorizing the Cumberland County Retirement Board to provide advice and recommendations to commissioners with respect to 457B supplemental recruitment funds. Bob.
Commissioners, the county offers to employees a 457 deferred compensation plan, 457 referring to the IRS code. It is a voluntary employee-only participation in the tax-deferred plan. The Board of Commissioners has oversight responsibilities over that plan. At the October 7th retirement board meeting last week, the retirement board accepted a motion to offer its services in an advisory capacity to the Board of Commissioners in assisting in advising and making recommendations for 457 plan. The resolution that you'll be passing on Monday is on behalf of the Board of Commissioners requesting and authorizing and acknowledging the acceptance of the retirement board services in that capacity and advisory capacity.
Any questions for Bob?
It's very simple, straightforward, Keith, I'm sure you could. Thank you.
Okay, and is there any significance to the fact that we don't use the term oversight at all?
Yes.
There is?
The retirement board has no statutory authority to provide oversight of any plan except mandatory retirement.
Okay, any other questions on this? Thank you. Moving on to number 7, Dana Best, review of resolution 2016-28 regarding budget adjustments.
Agents requested to increase their revenues by $132,373 and expenses by $248,735 This is an update based on the approved state budget. Subsidy is being increased by $48,374 for indirect costs. Their indirect costs for 2017 increased, and they're capped at 2%. And fund balance is being decreased by $116,362.
Questions for Dana? Thank you. Moving on to item number 8, calling Anita Brewster. Discussion of donations to the Cumberland County CASA program.
Yes, the CASA program. Court-appointed special advocates have trained over 200 CASA volunteers in our 16 years. And Mr. Kurt Misley is an example of some of the amazing volunteers we've had. He passed away last week. We're devastated. He was an amazing CASA volunteer. He and his wife teamed a case together for 6 years. He continued doing his work even through his illness when he could barely, well, he was in a wheelchair. He still came to court when he could. Amazing couple. And even in death, he is trying to help people as he did his entire life. In lieu of flowers, they're asking that any donations be given to the Cumberland County CASA program. We would like to, if we're allowed to, we would like to translate that into cards or gas cards for our CASAs to help offset some of the thousands of miles our CASA volunteers do in their work for abused kids. And then we just want to make sure we're getting all the right pieces in place for that.
Are there any questions for Anita? Okay, Anita, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
thank you to the family that come to. Move on to contracts and grants. Cindy obviously is not here. I will do my best to step in and the role. First, we have existing contracts, contract extensions, the amendment with no additional cost or increase. Children and Youth Agreement with Edison Court, Claremont Nursing and Rehab Center with Spirit Trust Lutheran Life, Drug and Alcohol Agreement with Health Choices, contract with Pennsylvania Department of Human Services, Facilities Management Agreement with Portable Elevator Inspections, renewal, and Prison Canteen Agreement, Pennsylvania District Attorney's Institute. Any questions on any of those? Okay, I'll go on to new contracts, vendors, services, grants, and contracts with increases, decreases to the county. And we'll start with Kim Bittner from Aging and Community to Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. Kim.
Hi, good morning. The actual allocation from the state for the state food purchase drugs program actually increased. However, the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank contract decreased, and that's based on where the food pantries want to spend their money.
Okay. Any questions for Kim? Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to Claremont Nursing Home. And first we have Liz Bausch with Maximum Staffing Solutions.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a staffing/recruiting contract where we have approximately 5 LPN vacancies right now that we are not receiving contracts for. Applications for. So what this contract will allow us to do is to partner with this staffing agency to find LPNs. The goal is to at least get 2 at this point. We get to test them out for approximately 18 weeks, and then after that, we can bring them on as a full-time employee with no additional fee.
Any questions for Liz?
What is the fee?
The hourly rate would be $40 an hour for the weekdays and $42 for the weekend. So approximately for 2 LPNs, it will cost us around $64,000. With overtime and with benefits, overtime for LPNs is about $60,000 to cover the same amount of time, and then plus the regular rate, which is anywhere from $46,000 to $50,000.
Liz, I thought there's an issue with that contract that needs to be addressed.
Is it the travel?
I don't know what it is, I don't recall what it is, but Linda advised me that after I reviewed it, there was an item that needs to be changed.
Sure, I haven't heard that, but I will check with them.
Any other questions for Liz? Thank you, Liz. Next, we'll have Rob Ritter talk about a modification for Dr. Wallace's contract, his attending position.
Good morning. Yes, Dr. Gullis, as you may know, back in August of last year, was the interim medical director at Claremont. In the beginning of this year, he took over full-time duties as the medical director. His current monthly stipend is $1,760 or $21,120 a year. However, he left Penn State Hershey Medical Group in order to take over duties at Claremont. The good doctor is currently working almost 40 hours a week for us, and he has made a request for some compensation that he was not entitled to before. He is asking for $13,800 for his billing services and credentialing, and also for assistance with his malpractice insurance. I would be inclined to agree that he should be compensated to some degree for his additional services and time. Thank you.
Questions for Bob? Just want to point out that Dr. Wallace was told by Penn State that he had to choose between working there at the Campbell Primary Care Center and working at the nursing home, and he chose to go to nursing home and give up his position with Hershey. So he now has to pay for all that essentially overhead. Technically, it's not compensation. It's part of the overhead of being able to conduct his practice and be certified to provide the services he does for the nurse. Any questions on that? Thank you. Next, we have the clerk of courts and proprietary agreements with Dennis Lebo and Dave Buell. Nicholas Solutions, and I'll turn it over to you guys. Is Denny?
Denny's not here. Do you want me to go first?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, yeah. Liz, yeah.
I know Denny's.
All right. Yeah. When to speak. Thanks, commissioners, for the opportunity to discuss this. This is a joint venture between clerks and proprietaries. The process that touches my office is, and I'll put this in very layman's terms, when there is a judgment against a criminal judgment, or there's a fine against a criminal action, they collect the fines, costs and fines. If those costs and fines are not paid, then they enter a judgment, which is an order to pay those costs and fines. We do the same thing on the civil side, they do the criminal side. The filing fee for that judgment is $36.50. So since it is a judgment, it's a civil action, it's filed in my office. So that's one of the two things that we do together. How it's done now is they'll get, I would say 50 or 60 a month, and they will send us a list of these judgments to be filed in our office, a paper list. Unfortunately, the criminal system and the civil system do not have the same type of filing numbers. So we get it with the criminal docket number on it, which virtually means nothing to us. So basically, every one of these we have to manually search to find the civil docket number, and then we do the docket entry on our system and attach the $36.50 in our system. So it's basically starting 50 new cases every month for the 50, 60. So as you can understand, to hand search 60 cases and do the individual docket entries is several hours of work. My first deputy does those. Her billing rate, we're talking about probably in the neighborhood of $75, $80 every time she processes these. Plus, again, it's being done by hand, so human beings touching it, again, we have great accuracy in our office, but we're human beings, not robots, so that's an element too. So what this will do is basically the clerk can send this over electronically. It's automatically imported into our system. So not only do we have the civil docket numbers but it's already entered as new cases, so we don't even have to do the docket entry anymore. As far as the money cost, what we envision happening, and these are some details that we probably need to work out, minute things, but at the end of the month, we get a report of all the civil dockets that are entered with the check, one-time check, and then we process the check, which virtually takes less than 5 minutes. So if you do a cost-benefit analysis, I did the pay rate of our clerk and how many hours it takes, and it takes, on paper, it's about 53 months to recover the $2,600. But I think that doesn't quantify the error factor that you're, because you're automating the processes now manual. Also, this will happen the savings for the rest of our, computer life in Cumberland County. So there's cost savings for forever. Plus, she's freed up to do other things other than this 2-3 hour laborious process. Then obviously it's hard to quantify that number too. But if we did the numbers on paper, how much it costs to process this transaction, and to me, it's well within the $2,600 for the fee. Thanks for your consideration. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
And Dave, and Denny just got here. I'm assuming this is all part of some integrated.
It says it's a new contract, but really we're just amending the paperless solution scope of work to do this as well. We have an existing contract that's with them, so it's just bolted onto both of our existing systems. Basically, what we're paying for is the development time to make all those things talk to each other. It's not necessarily really software per se.
You said the cost is $2,600?
Up to my office, yeah. So it's $5,200 and we're splitting it. Now, I'm asking for this out of the general fund money and not out of my automation fund money. My automation fund money is budgeted. The reason I felt it applicable to be out of the general fund money is because we collect, if an attorney goes on to search and search documents, we collect the search fees. There's case filing fees. There's fees that we collect from our electronic system that are going into the general fund. So we're filling up one bucket, and before we were paying for the services with another bucket that wasn't filled up from this. So I'm trying to kind of even that out a little bit. So that's why it's general fund as opposed to automation fund.
Any questions for Dave?
Yeah, Jay, just so I understand, what's being done today, correct me if I'm wrong, you judgments for civil actions filed in your office?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then where's the connection with the clerk of courts?
Well, for them to file civil judgments against someone who doesn't pay their costs and fines, it's a civil action. It's not a criminal action. So it has to be filed in a civil court.
Okay.
The wonderfulness of Pennsylvania is that civil and criminal are very two distinct defined lines, and so we have two distinct offices. So that's just the way it's.
Okay, so right now it's a paper process.
Yes, sir.
Which people are manually doing
The
this.
clerk's office are producing it and sending it to us. Yes.
And this will eliminate that and make it more of a push button process.
That's correct, sir.
Good, thank you.
I do have a question. I guess I don't understand your analogy regarding the buckets. Why would you not pay for this out of your automation fund? That's what those dollars are for.
Okay, let me, the cost, the money that we receive. So if you're an attorney, Kevin goes online and wants to look up a docket number and download those documents. He's downloaded it for fee per page. And the money that we collect, that goes back into the general fund. It's just like someone would file a filing fee. Okay.
Sure, yeah.
So at the end of the year, we've received this amount of money. And if you need to know the money that we received to date, I can get that. I didn't have that for this morning's meeting, like how much we've taken in. But that money that we receive, obviously we're not a business. So, but when we're one of the rare offices that actually has reoccurring revenue streams, and we're not just a payout. So we make money on the retrieval of documents and filing, electronic filing. So that money goes into the general fund. okay? Associated with providing that resource are maintenance fees and fees like this for integration. So we can't take that money that let's just give a ballpark number. I think my budget number was $40,000 that we're gonna get for printing fees and document retrieval and e-filing. So say we take in that $40,000, it goes into the 211010 general fund monies, just like any filing fee. We can't pull that $40,000 out and say, okay, it's illegal for us to be in business to make a profit. Okay, it's not the government structure. So the reason we can justify the filing fee is because it costs money to provide that to the constituent.
Right.
So we offset not only our recurring every yearly maintenance fee with that amount of money, but also any enhancements or any things that we need to do. So it's basically self-funded, but you have two different buckets that the money goes in. The automation fund money is just the filing fee that the $2.50 we get on every case file. So we have no way to commingle those funds. So we're filling up one bucket, but we're paying for it through the other bucket. So this is obviously going to run dry because nothing's replenishing it. So you're receiving, I would argue that it is revenue neutral in the fact that we're receiving more money in our filing fees and our electronic fees than what this has cost. But again,
But we have a number of offices that generate revenue as part of it, and other offices that don't. So that's just kind of a function within county government or state government for that matter. So.
well, I guess it's my blessing or curse of my private sector experience that if I'm truly asked to balance my budget, that all my fees and everything is self-funded, then if I'm paying out something that I'm receiving and it's not applied to any sort of budget item, then I don't know how you can balance that. At the end of the day, we're still ahead on our things, but
All right. I see where you're going with it, but I don't think it's as important as you make it out to be, but that's really.
well, I'm just full disclosure. I just want you to know that because ours are different, and on my contract it says that it is out of the 211010 general fund, and I just want to explain why I did that instead of an automation.
Is it one-time cost?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What was the original contract cost for a particular solution? You guys know?
Well, we've done several projects since, and I fact we have one pending with the court administrator's office. But I want to say the original system was, gosh, I can give you a ballpark, but I don't want to misspeak. If I had to guess, it's like $150,000 that was paid out of records improvement money.
That's what I was trying to remember. That was paid out of records.
It may be more or less, but that's like, again, we've had several, changes, enhancements that we've funded and things, and so.
Just to follow up on Gary's, I think, original question. How much do you have in the automation fund?
Well, I have two pending things that I am paying out of the automation fund in regards to the court administrator and another modification. So I think for budget-wise, I think I'm pretty much flat. So I think I've spent, again, we recur, we probably make about, you get $2.50 or $5 every case. So it reduces self.
That's all, but that is.
I think today, I don't think I have money in our automation fund to pay this because, I think we have money in there, but I think it's already been allocated for invoices that are still in process.
That's being replenished on a regular basis.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Let's hear from Denny. If you could remain with us, Dave, please.
Yeah, there's 3 change requests that pertain to my office, and the administrator, my office, and Dave's. The first one is case binder change request. Most part of that. That will enable us to automate and electronically send appeals to the higher courts, which we are now sending in paper. We can save the postage and the automated process. And that one costs $6,400. All of mine will be paid out of my automation fund, as says my whole project. We also grant, I guess, from AOPC. But that would be no cost to the county. The second one was the criminal judge workflow. This would be the process that was really said was going to be the voluntary system to send motions and motions, petitions, memos, and memorandums to the court administrator electronically, which will then enable her to do the much better place. She's here. If you'd like to speak to how that will help.
Yeah, we started this with actually paperless and Dave about finally getting everything in place that right now, if anything is even filed electronically or in paper in the pathonetary's office as well as the clerk of courts, that paper is processed by their offices and then it is walked up either by their staff or my staff has to go down and pick it up. We then have to manually enter everything into our system and then we have to walk it up to a judge. What these systems will do, and yours isn't on the agenda this time, right? But it's because it's going through automation. Right. So once everything's in place, what will happen is once something is filed in the clerk of courts or the pathonetary's office, they will be able to do what they need to do electronically. I'm not sure exactly how it'll work, but they'll push a button, however it works. They'll push a button. It will transmit to my office electronically for the pathonetary, but not for the clerk of courts. There will actually be an automated download into our system, so my staff will no longer have to manually type everything in. Once we approve that the judge is correct and all those things are set up properly, it will actually automatically be transmitted electronically to a judge. This process should cut our time in half. We did a very preliminary return on investment thing for my staff alone. And based on the 2 projects, return on investment is less than 2 years. The amount of staff time that is saved in my office can obviously be reallocated to other resources, such as the 7th judge coming on board. This will also reduce the chance of paperwork being lost. Right now, with everything coming in paper, things get paper clipped to other things and end up in the wrong office. Paper falls, envelopes get lost. This will really increase the efficiency of our office as well as both filing offices. So we're pretty excited about it.
Especially because you don't have to pay for anything.
Yeah, that was the really exciting part.
All right.
But I think the return on investment is great.
Denny, can you go on to the other 2, please?
Pardon?
Can you go on to your other 2 items, criminal judge workflow and veteran?
That's one I just did.
All right, so I'm confused. You talked about case binder, that is the cost of $5,400?
That's correct.
Okay, and can we have the cost for the other 2?
The cost for the one that we just discussed is $8,400, and actually $4,200 of that is a component that would be shared between the 2 systems. And so when, I'm probably going to get this done before this other project goes forward. And that's $2,100 that half of that backing in. But again, right now I'm going to my automation fund.
It's went out of your automation.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the third thing is the judgment cost and fines. This will benefit both Dave and I. It will enable our judgments that we have to file. Anybody that has a balance of over $1,000 after 30 days in his office, that will all be an automated process. Right now we're creating paper judgments, we're taking them down there, processing them by hand, sending them back up again. So we'll totally automate that process. And that cost of that is $2,400. And again, I'm paying that for entirely on my automation fund. So this project will come entirely on my automation fund. And I did agree to pay $2,400, $2,600, matching amount with Dave mentioned. Yeah, I'm paying that out of my automation fund for that project also. it's taking a long time for our checks to come back to us because of the manual labor they have to do. So I'm going to contribute that towards that project, so.
So can I ask you two to send an email to me, copy of the commissioners, just a summary of all the cost elements and where it's coming from?
Should,
Well,
You think it would cost for all three?
okay, that's, I
All
can,
$2,600 coming out of my
I
own.
understand.
that's easy to get, Larry, because it's already on the thing. That's no problem at all.
Thank you. And it's clear, and just make it clear where the money's coming from, yours is coming from automation, you're requesting general fund. For the 26. And I just think that'll help with the decision. Melissa, thank you for your, any other questions?
Can I just add one more quick thing?
Sure.
You know, when we started this process, I mean, when I first came in 2010, this was kind of one of those ideas, agenda thing. I had some bullet points that I wanted to fix in our office, but this is one of the things. Electronic filing is one thing that I thought would just be a really amazing thing, not just for our office, but how the tentacles would reach to the other. And you know, I don't think I even knew what I didn't know as far as who could be impacted. But in 2010, we, not for any fault of our infrastructure, but just because it was, people couldn't even search cases online in our office without a docket number. And so now, not only can they search cases, print cases, take cases, you know, e-file the cases, but judges can access cases, anyone in the county can access cases for free, and now we're doing cross-section of workflow applications, and it's this whole process of what you're approving today is absolutely in the spirit of what I think that when we first approved this project that you asked us for, is to, you know, find out where we can work together, eliminate manual processes and do workflow. And obviously there's some costs attached to that, and you know, we've been fortunate enough to pay the majority out of non-general fund money, but so this is exactly what you've asked us to do, and it's, you know, obviously just like any major, you know, paradigm shift going from paper to electronic, it's a difficult process. It takes a long time, both on Denny's part, on, you know, Melissa's part, and my part, because we want to make sure to do it in a thoughtful manner. But this is exactly what you've asked us to do, and we're pretty proud to be able to deliver that.
I have a quick question for Mark. Mark, does any of this put any kind of burden on IMTO, or is this all pretty much something?
The systems are already in place, so really it's just a programming change on the paperless side to do that. I've not heard of anything that would impact us unless you know something I don't.
You could do party search in the old system also, not just docket search.
Okay.
Yeah, the only comment I would make, and it's just kind of like just a general comment, and I appreciate the fact that we moved into electronic filing and are taking these actions to, you know, improve efficiencies and streamline operations. And I would, at some point in time, like to know how we can quantify this in terms of the savings to our taxpayers. I mean, we know we have these additional costs associated with the technology. I'd like to know how it is we've saved dollars for taxpayers.
Sure, I can quantify that. But also, like I said, largely Denny's funding that automation, largely all of mine have been done out of, even my maintenance has been done out of automation or records improvement fund. So if you want to talk about the dollars impacted in the, you know, taxpayer money, it's.
Can I make a procedural question so we can get going here?
Sorry.
Paperless solutions was a big project, and it was also a departure from what we've done previously. I would like to suggest that we schedule a session in the finance meeting slot to present sort of where we started, where we are, and to address those kinds of questions. I think it's more than we have time to address here.
No, I appreciate that, and I did listen to Melissa's comment relative to it'll help to prepare us, you know, for the coming of a new judge. But our new judge isn't coming until 2021, so I would like to know how many, 20, is that right?
2020.
2020, I'm sorry.
There's a lot of prep work that goes into that as well.
No, I
too. It's not
understand,
just,
I understand, but we're,
Yeah.
we're saving staff time through all this innovation. And again, it comes down to, my question is, how does this show cost savings for our taxpayers?
So we'll get that on a workshop, and we will integrate the topic of the new common pleas judging training. Okay? All right, thank you very much.
Just weird, mine doesn't cost taxpayers anything. Nothing I've done so far or going forward.
Yeah, no, well, it should be, no, I understand, it's coming from fees, I understand that.
No, it's not coming from fees, it's coming from automation or grant money.
All right, so I'm going to call the point of order.
Okay.
Let's get going. Thank you very much, fellas. And Melissa. Let's move on to Melissa. The Environmental Acoustics Incorporated Consulting and Design Services for Courtroom 5.
Yes, we did the bid for Courtroom 5, and we had one bidder. It came in above our original estimates, and David Still, who we have the contract with, has been doing a little extra work, which basically this will help cover. He has gone through the bid and found that since the time the project was initiated, some of the technology has changed. There's tech that's no longer available, and the vendor had to replace it with a different kind of tech that accomplishes the same thing, but the price is different. And he's had to go through that basically and revise, not necessarily the project as a whole, but how we're going to get there, because some of the stuff is no longer available, or the tech has changed. Even just a brief look, we're asking for $1,440 additional for him, $1,440. Even just a brief look that he took a few minutes, he's found about $5,000 he can cut off the costs. He believes that there's more buried in there, making some change outs for some different tech. Unfortunately, the vendor making the bid cannot say, oh, I want to use this different thing. They kind of have to go in that same line of what the project was bid. Am I saying that right, Keith?
Yes.
Yeah, so the vendor can't say, I'm going to use this other cheaper thing. They have to go with what accomplishes exactly what was in the design. David is going to go through the design and come up with the alternatives. If we have to rebid this, the problem is that we end up going into that time frame again, where the tech is going to change again. It happens very quickly, especially lately. It seems like it's been a problem. But basically, it's asking for a little under $1,500 to go back through the documents, put the upgraded tech in, and bring the price down over what the initial bid was.
Just for everybody's reference, David isn't the guy who actually installs the stuff.
No.
He is the acoustical engineering
Yes.
design dude.
He is the design dude, yes.
Any questions for Melissa on this?
So we're gonna pay an extra $1,440 to save $5,000.
Already $5,000. At a brief glance, he's been able to find $5,000 of savings. He believes there's much more in there. He just needs to do some more in-depth review.
How does that savings come back to us? We pay under what the contract is then?
Yeah.
Invoice current contract.
The invoicing will be less than what was anticipated.
For the project, not for David, for the
Right.
project, yes. Yeah, change to make sure that's correct. Change, yeah, for change orders.
Any questions for Melissa? Melissa, thank you so much. Now, the miracle of video teleconferencing, once again, we have Kirk Stoner, Planning Department Met Ed. Kirk.
Sure, Commissioner, this is our response cost for utility relocation as part of our Atlantic Bridge project. Initial costs were estimated about $28,000. Actual cost will be about $5,000 higher. And some additional work they needed to do with installing a stone access drive and also with tear down and reset up based upon the bridge closing earlier than they anticipated to allow some truck traffic through. I reviewed this, had HRG review it, and are okay with the costs that are proposed.
How much are we talking about, Kirk?
$33,000, $33,873. This is all part of our bridge project. The costs were anticipated and included in our bridge costs.
Okay, and this would be paid out of the $5 registration fee funds revenues?
Liquid fuels, there's a variety of funding sources that are going into the project.
Okay, not out of the general fund?
No, not general fund.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Kirk? Kirk, thank you very much. Now, through the miracle of face-to-face technology, we have Earl Rice with the Clark Service Group.
Commissioners, this agreement with Clark is for the inspection, preventive maintenance, and repair of our kitchen equipment. The yearly cost for next year will be $3,398. That is a $98 increase over this year.
And I'm sorry, the total amount, Earl, was $3,398?
Correct.
And it's up $98 from.
Yeah, this year was $3,300.
What do they provide again? What is this group?
Well, they inspected the food service equipment, kitchen equipment, and they do preventive maintenance on it. And then also in the agreement, if we have to repair anything, it talks about replacement of parts and things like that.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Earl?
One question, the food service, we're constantly looking at constantly seeing the newspapers about restaurant inspections and such. So how are the food inspections handled for your food service?
Well, the Department of Corrections inspects us.
They do their
So does the Federal Bureau of Prisons and the United States Marshal Service. And our medical provider also makes monthly trips to the kitchen. Plus, we also walk through the kitchen daily. That's one area where you want to stay on top of.
Yeah, I've noticed how the school districts now are increasingly being listed in the newspaper articles about so obviously any food service, food trucks and everything, the state's taking a
Even
lot
our
of
food
interest.
service agreement has maintenance, a big maintenance component to it, which I'll be talking about here shortly.
Okay, I was just curious about what compliance at the state level is done. That's helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions for Earl? Thank you, Earl. Once again, through BTC, we'll call on Justin Miller. Justin, are you with us? Going once?
Yes.
There you go, Justin. Now we got the Pennsylvania Department Environmental Protection Grant application, record of operations and application, reimbursement for 2016 Household Hazardous Waste Collection Program.
Yes, Commissioners, I'm requesting your signature on two different documents, both related to our August 20th Household Hazardous Waste Collection event. First one is called a record of operation. Basically tells the state the various types of materials that we collected, their waste, and how they were disposed of. The second document is the application for reimbursement. That shows the state the grant eligible costs, and we asked for 50% of that to be paid back to us. Those costs were $46,866.84. So we are asking for $23,433.42.
Any questions for Justin? Justin, there's no cost to us involved. This is just so we can recoup money from the state.
Yeah, to answer your question, in the big picture, this money coupled with our advanced disposal sponsorship and our two private, one private, one public donation, we still incurred about $3,000 of cost for this program out of a total of about $55,000. So I think we came out pretty good.
Right. So this is just to recoup money against and defray those costs.
That is correct.
Thank you. Any?
Yeah, Justin, I'm confused on the grant application that says there is a county match. Can you explain if there's no, I'm just confused, the application here that I'm looking at says there is a county match.
Which,
the grant amount is for, the grant amount is for $23,433.42, as you mentioned. But
yes.
to further down on the application, it says yes for county match. But I just need to know what that means, or if that's a mistake. There is no county match.
Well, there is. We spend the money up front, and then we ask for this reimbursement.
Never.
But what I'm saying, this reimbursement amount, coupled with our advanced disposal sponsorship and the two donations we got, that the county's final cost actually about $2,600.
Okay.
So that would be the county's contributions with the program.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Justin? Justin, thank you very much. All right, that's it for contracts. We'll move on to item 10, discussion of capital projects request. Mark Adams, IMTO, redundant firewall.
Good morning, Commissioners. Currently, our network is set up so we have one firewall which allows traffic in and out of the county. So that includes things like email and all internet traffic, connections to other buildings that we have that are not in the core of our network, like we have the DJ offices. We use the internet a lot these days. As you know, it's expanding every day, including things like I have a secondary page to the capital project that includes some of those services. Pennsylvania Justice Network like JNet, Clean, NCIC, case management systems, election systems with the state. We've identified that as a single point of failure. We do have coverage on that 24/7 by 4 hours. However, if we did lose something with that firewall, we'd be down 4 hours to replace the parts, and then whatever time it is to get that up and running again. So potentially, we're estimating it could be up to a full day of lost internet connectivity and lost business. So we're looking to replace that or I guess purchase a redundant firewall, which would help us alleviate that risk of downtime. Cost of that would be $15,254.80.
So this is insurance.
This is insurance.
Questions for Mark? And Mark, is there a vendor involved here?
We purchased the Cisco firewall product. So we would buy what we have today, and then there's some software costs to get them to work together, and then if one fails, the other one picks up.
And then you guys put it all together?
Correct.
Thank you. Charles, you've been patiently waiting. Now it's your turn. Video conference unit, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. We have a contract for you with JP Lilly Incorporated for a Polycom conference system. The cost is $36,218. This system will be utilized for conducting conferences and hearings with clients outside the county and also outside the state. The system will also be used for training, primarily with Penn State, but it will be utilized throughout the counties that conduct training that we participate with. It will also be used for webinars, audio conferences, and also presentations. The reimbursement for this system will be 66% by the federal government.
And Chuck, where does the other 34% come from?
34 will be a subsidy from the county.
Okay, thank you. And is there any visual component? Is this strictly audio?
This is for video conferencing as well as having the ability to just have audio and also just a presentation, plugging in a laptop into their system so they can present everything to a larger group. We're gearing this for larger, instead of one-on-one, but training for larger groups for our staff.
So, Mark, is this sort of separate on
No, it will tie into our existing Polycom real presence application.
Okay. That was my question. All right, any questions?
IMTO has been very helpful.
Go ahead.
IMTO has been very helpful. Larry's been helping out in trying to get a system that works well and meets our needs. So we appreciate their assistance in this program.
What exactly is JP Lilly going to do? I mean,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, for the $36,000, what is JP Lilly going to do?
They're going to be supplying the product, installing a portion of the product to lower some of the costs. IMTO and also Bates will be installing some wiring, but primarily the unit setup and design.
Okay, I'd like to take a closer look at the contract. maybe we have that, but I would like to take a little closer look at it.
I don't have the contract.
You don't?
No, I think it's just because it's a capital request, I won't see it until later.
All right, Charles, could we, I don't know if you heard that, can we get, is there a document or an agreement about this that we could get over?
Yes, I can email it to you, yes.
All right, send it to me, please, and I'll get it to everybody else.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Charles?
Yeah, the project cost of $36,000, that's the total cost, and if I heard right, about a third of that would be subsidized by the county.
So it's about 11, 12,000.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we have Chuck there from the Gulf Relation Vehicle Replacement.
Morning, Commissioners. We're looking to get rid of a 1998 Crown Victoria. The service well has about 118,000 miles on it, with replace it with a 2017 Ford Explorer. The last three vehicles I think we've gotten have been the SUV types, which seem to service better and all kinds of weather and everything. From Apple Ford, cost is $30,139, and includes a $500 trade-in value for the 1998 Crown Victoria.
This is what makes America a good country. I would just like to point out that today my 2007 Honda Civic hit the $350,000 mile mark with no repairs.
That's like 30 decades, isn't it?
That's like 30 decades.
That's not going to be car years.
Yes. Any questions for Chuck?
The cost of this is all county subsidized, and is it budgeted?
Hospitality.
Subsidized.
Yes.
Excuse me?
It is coming, it is through the general fund, correct? You're not
Yes.
using offender supervision.
General fund.
And the capital, we pull capital, we don't budget for it at the beginning of the year, but there is enough funds to cover the purchase of the capital.
Okay, how do we decide what dealership we buy? Doesn't some of this, or should it go through CoStarz, or is it not pertinent to county?
This is CoStarz.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yes, it's CoStarz. I went out to 4 different dealerships across the state, and this is a CoStarz dealership.
Very good, thank you.
And I assume there are cup holders involved?
There are a couple orders involved in this.
Thank you,
That
sir.
is correct.
Any other questions for Chuck? Thank you, gentlemen. Kirk?
Thank you.
Craighead Bridge Engineering and Construction.
Commissioners, this is the capital project request for Craighead Bridge now that we have our bids in. You can see the price is a little over $4 million. Our share of that is 5%. That's correct,
5%. Okay. Any questions for Kirk on that?
No, it's good that, we're still, in a lot of these projects, able to, draw down federal and state funds to help pay for the cost. Kirk, just out of curiosity, what was the original projected cost for this project?
I'll have to check that and get back to you, Jim. I believe on the construction side, we were about 10% lower than what the actual bid was.
Okay. All right. But, even though we have the $5 vehicle registration fee, one of the things that, I was concerned about, and this is a demonstration of that, is that we still take advantage of, being able to draw down federal and state funding assistance. So I'm glad that we, in this project, our share is at only 5%.
Any other questions for Kirk? Kirk, any muscles involved in this one?
They're all accounted for, we're ready to go on this.
A little bit of olive oil, a little bit of garlic. Okay, thank you.
If Vince is ready with his bucket the next time,
I'll get there.
That is correct.
Thank you, Kirk.
Yeah.
Next, I guess, this is, I believe this is the same thing that was covered above. This break out of all those. Let's move on to item number 11, our rights, food service operation at the prison.
Commissioners, I reported that prison board meeting this past Monday, that our food service contract was up for rebid. 3 bids were received, one from Aramark, from Philadelphia, PA, a company called ABL from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and a nutrition group from Cumberland, PA. We would make the recommendation that the bid award go to Aramark. Their 5-year average per meal cost came in at 1.2608. ABLs came in at 1.29588, and nutrition groups came in at 1.3818. So Aramark was low bid, and they also are prepared to meet all the bid specifications that were additional for food service agreement with regard to sanitation, things like that.
Any questions for Earl?
Just to reiterate, prison board, you expressed a high degree of satisfaction with the airport.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we've had a very good relationship with Aramark.
And I'm assuming there are vegetables involved here?
Yes.
All right, thanks, Earl.
Thank you.
Catch it, yeah. Thank you, Earl. Item number 12, Commission Liaison Report. We'll start with Chairman Dupuy.
Thanks, Larry. First, I'll report on Penn State Ag Extension. Logan Hall has been hired as a 4-H educator. She's from Mechanicsburg and worked several years as Deputy Press Secretary at the VA Department of Agriculture. She has a very good background in 4-H program. Currently screening applications for water resources educator and dairy systems educator are being conducted. And the annual extension meeting will be held at the Carlisle Fire and Rescue Building on Thursday, November 3. The program starts at 6:30 p.m. And the featured speaker this year is Jack Hughley. And his program is called Critters Beyond Your Back Door. And he will be featuring some of his live critters. Next is the Western Cumberland Council of Governments. Just some reports here. Dave Parthmore mentioned that House Bill 782 would mandate townships who have at least 2 third-party agencies selected to perform uniform construction code inspections. It was also announced the new exempt, non-exempt law changes for employees who make less than $47,476. And that effect on overtime was discussed. Jeff Kelly reviewed the Cumberland County packet and mentioned that we continue to update the comprehensive plan. That plan was reviewed again at the Western Planning Outreach meeting, which I attended, which was on October 11th. Mary Kuna mentioned that CADIC is conducting a military value assessment survey. This was done at the last COG meeting. And just a couple of local notes of interest. The school resource officer program started over at Big Spring School District. Cook Township, Bill Jones noted that they are updating their comprehensive plan. I don't know when it was when the last time it was updated. They've also sent out, Cook Township has sent out a questionnaire about residents' concerns over cell towers. North Newton Township plans to include a $2 per capita for the Cumberland County Drug Task Force. And I believe Penn Township doing the same thing. One other item, there is a new sign out on the Cumberland Valley Rail Trail at the Oakville stop stating, "Welcome to Oakville." Have you been to Oakville? It's one of the stop points between Newville and Shippensburg on the rail trail. So that's all I have, and that's it.
I think I'll go out there and do you a personal report and investigative report. Any questions for Chairman DeFelico?
Oh, I'm sorry, folks. I have one item I'd like to mention. This is for the Commission for Women. They are requesting a new appointment, Sherry Kleinkloss from Carlisle. This would be for a 3-year term starting October 24th, 2016 and going through December 31st, 2019. Jim and Gary, information was given out to you guys about Sherry. We can take action on Monday if you guys want to approve this. Okay, we'll take action on Monday. Thank you.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, Commissioner Herzler.
Okay, thanks, Larry. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board met last Tuesday afternoon and took action to recommend our approval of a $195,000 budget for 2017. We should be receiving a formal presentation from Tim Whalen or Kate Molinaro on the proposed Housing Trust Fund budget in the near future. The proposed budget is just a little bit higher than the 2016 budget. Is based on an uptick in deed transfers and associated increased fee revenue for the program. Through the end of last month, the program that provides down payment and closing cost assistance to first-time home buyers has assisted 22 families this year with the purchase of their first home since the inception of the program in 1998. The program has allocated $2.2 million in down payment and closing cost assistance, enabling 634 Cumberland County families to purchase their first home. The county's Aging Advisory Board met Friday, October 14. Meeting was held in Claremont to give our volunteer Aging Advisory Board members an opportunity to visit and tour our county's nursing home. In addition to the tour of the facility, they also got a chance to see the new garden and leisure area for residents of Claremont that we dedicated in the memory of the late Evelyn Brenneman last Tuesday. At the meeting, there was also follow-up discussion on our county's planned participation with other area agencies on aging around the state and the Comprehensive Care Connections Initiative that we discussed this morning in relation to the transition to managed care for senior services in the future. As voiced by our advisory board members, there is a concern as this initiative moves forward as to whether it's more about saving costs than it is about improving senior care. And that's one of the reasons, as we discussed at a recent Finance Committee meeting, that's important for us to stay on top of this transition as it unfolds. The Capital Region Council of Governments met Monday evening. I also attended the Council's Public Safety Committee meeting that was held in advance of the regular COG meeting. As a result of a special forum that was held at Harrisburg Area Community College about a month ago with our region volunteer firefighters, the COG is moving forward with an initiative aimed at helping our volunteer first responders. As you know, the COG has an ask for us. I also understand in Dauphin County and York counties with respect to a proposal to hire a regional coordinator for the purpose of assisting our volunteer fire companies with recruitment and retention and certain administrative tasks. I've invited the COG's officers and staff to come to one of our upcoming meetings to further discuss their proposal. And I believe that Jen is working on scheduling that meeting. At the COG meeting, there was also a presentation by Lee Murphy of the State Department of Environmental Protection with respect to the requirements being imposed on our municipalities as a result of the Chesapeake Bay Initiative. Our municipalities are being required, effective with 2018 stormwater permits, to demonstrate at least a 10% reduction in sediment runoff. Runoff during storms, wherever it occurs, must be mapped by our municipalities and corrective action taken as a result of the impending requirements. No mention of any state or federal funding assistance to pay for the new MS4 mandates that are coming down in our municipalities. But municipalities are allowed to impose new fees, like we've already seen in Hamden Township, on our residents and businesses to pay for these requirements. On Tuesday, in my capacity as the chairman of the Assessment and Taxation Committee of the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, I was joined by several commissioner colleagues from around the state, from Washington County, from Indiana County, Clinton County, and Luzerne County, a meeting with legislative leaders and the governor's office in an effort to lay the groundwork for hoped-for action in the next session of the General Assembly on legislation that would grant counties a new mix of revenue options for the purpose of reducing property taxes. This has been an elusive goal of the County Commissioners Association for many years. We met with Republican and Democrat Senate Finance Committee chairs, Senator Eichelberger of our county and Senator John Blake of Luzerne County, and Lackawanna County rather, and also with House Majority Leader Dave Reed, a staff representative with Senate Majority Leader Jake Corman, and with Mark Smith of the governor's office. I just want to mention that both Senator Blake and Senator Eichelberger have had bills in the past session, and the session that's coming to a close here shortly, that would actually offer counties and municipalities options with respect to our ability to reduce the burden on property taxpayers. I want to point out that it's probably been 19 years now since the voters of Pennsylvania overwhelmingly approved the homestead exemption constitutional amendment. And as I pointed out upon my election here as a county commissioner back in 2012, the citizens of Cumberland County, the homeowners, are only receiving 8% of what would otherwise be allowed for with respect to homeowner property tax relief as a result of the homestead exemption constitutional amendment. The legislature just recently included first session approval of a new constitutional amendment that will allow municipalities, counties, and school districts to actually move toward the total elimination of homeowner property taxes. Unfortunately, we don't have any way to implement that if and when that constitutional amendment would be approved. We are not permitted to increase property taxes on commercial property owners to reduce homeowner property taxes. And here in Cumberland County, except for fees for certain specific purposes, our only revenue source, as it is across the state, is the inequitable property tax. So I'm hopeful that our discussions will lead to some positive action in the new session. Senator Corman, who's the Senate Majority Leader, had suggested at our spring conference of the County Commissioners Association that counties need to force ourselves into this conversation. And that's exactly what we hope to do. And I want to commend those members of the Assessment and Taxation Committee of CCAP who joined me, and also the incoming president of CCAP, Marlon Shover, from Washington County, and the meetings that we conducted this past week. And finally, I met yesterday at the invitation of Carl Goshorn and Wilbur Wolf, the chairman of our county's Conservation District Board, with a couple of representatives of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation out at Allen Road. They were very interested in how we are approaching the new compliance inspections of farms in Cumberland County, in that we have charted a path of working in a cooperative fashion with our farming community on a personal basis to account for and implement where necessary best management practices, and also to provide assistance as we can. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Commissioner Hartzler? All right, Commissioner Eichelberger.
Okay, thank you. Just briefly, HIDD advisory group meets today. That means I'm up here in county. I'm not certain I'll be attending that. The recycling authority met on Monday. I'll have more on that shortly. Planning Commission met this morning. I was there, and I have just pass these down right now. This is the progress dashboard and the monthly update, essentially, that we go over in that meeting. And I'll give you just a couple of highlights here. You can read most of it for yourself. Vince mentioned in passing the comp plan plan updates going on in certain municipalities, and just the overview on that as the process continues to roll out. Municipal outreach phase, we're well into that. The future land use map that was finalized and provided some weeks ago. About 50% of municipalities have returned their comments on those. We've had considerable discussion here regarding the survey, the public input survey that Kirk alluded to earlier, that Shippensburg University Center for Land Use is assisting us with. And they have, Kirk has met with them. They are finalizing the first draft on the survey instrument. There is included on your handout, there is a template from Delaware River that's serving as sort of a guideline for what we're looking to design ours on, so feel free to take a look at that. And again, input requested, and there'll be opportunity here as that design continues for us to have input on that. Kirk did mention that there, as he corresponded with us earlier in the week, there is some involvement with some of the classes there, and we have yet to define exactly what the role of this, integrating this process into the classwork involves. We want to ensure certainly that we have the highest professional survey instrument possible, and the data gathering process follows all professional guidelines. So if they can leverage that into a learning opportunity, that's terrific. But our concern is that we have a very robust data gathering system. So he did mention that the current Apache strike is impacting them, so there's no work being done on that. Hopefully that won't be delayed by too much, but that is a reality that we're dealing with right now. The remaining schedule for comp plan is outlined there for you as well. We've alluded to that a number of times. Public engagement phase will proceed January through March, and the finalization April, May, and June should be the final adoption when it comes to us. Very briefly, if you look on the second page, the progress dashboard, the technical assistance program is one of the more important parts of what the planning shop does. And there's a listing there of some of the individual municipal interactions that are going on. Kirk did highlight for the planning commission, particularly, and I've reported this before, New Cumberland Borough is getting very serious, putting together a revitalization group for the downtown, and our Economic Development Corporation and planning folks have been part of that formative phase for them, important part of that. Also listed there is the MS4 municipalities. We heard some updates on that earlier, but planning is trying to coordinate numerous meetings between the state and the municipalities that are affected so that we have a more coordinated approach. One thing I did want to mention too, under the special projects listing, we had some discussion regarding the second item, the Infrastructure Coordination Council, and the example that Kirk pointed out to us was in one of the bridge projects, the county instituted a detour around that project, and then shortly thereafter, PennDOT had begun a project that was taking place on part of our detour that resulted in a detour from our detour. And obviously, that engenders some ill will from the members of the public who are getting double whammy on that. So what we're trying to do is avoid having those things. So Kirk is setting up this coordination council so that we are coordinating between municipalities on road and bridge projects, as well as involving the Commonwealth, so that these things can proceed in a more coordinated fashion and to mitigate the disruptions that can be caused over the summer as well. So I think that has a high degree of promise, and we'll be hearing more on that in the future. And real quick, of course, the bridge program update, we heard earlier that Craighead moving forward, and the lighting was completed 3 weeks early last month. So the other item I wanted to mention, just a reminder that the vacant seats on the Planning Commission, we're still accepting nominees for that, so we want to continue to place this month, and each of us attended at least one of those. So the electronics recycling is also mentioned there in passing. The thrust of Monday's meeting, as I understand it, was a detailed discussion on some research that Kirk and Justin Miller are doing in terms of developing this idea of a convenience center. And there's some pricing information. I know they had contact with a manufacturer and a recycling company on that. They've been gathering a bunch of data. They've got a preliminary, I don't want to call it a proposal, but a list of options available to the county potentially. And I believe next week is when they're presenting at the finance committee meeting. So Wednesday we should get a detailed look at that. I got a brief overview from Kirk, but I'll spoil any surprises or anything. Let's give them time to formulate some more details, and we'll have a detailed discussion on that Wednesday. So still moving on that issue. That's everything I have.
Gary, question on the planning commission vacancies. Who occupy those seats?
We have one gentleman from Silver Spring Township who is cycling off. He has done his full 2 terms. That's Rob and John. I'm trying to think who else is cycling off. That name just eludes me right now.
Is it the lady from Southman?
Bart Wilson circulated off last year.
Okay.
So there's somebody else that just.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I can check with Kirk and make sure. So, because we do have a good balance right now on the board. We'd like to have another woman if possible. I know geographically we've got good balance. We've got some good professional representation from the development community. So that the technical issues can be addressed sufficiently. So we'd like to kind of stay somewhat close to the technical profile that we have, but this helps to bring some more perspectives as well.
Any questions for Commissioner Eichelman? Commissioner DeFilippo, would any of the commissioners like to, very briefly, talk about the visit over to the Secretary Richards?
Yeah, I was going to actually bring it up under other business as well. I have another item I'd like to bring up, but I very much appreciate the fact that my colleagues and I were able to meet with Secretary Richards yesterday at the Department of Transportation on the issue of crossover crashes that have occurred up Interstate 81. Unfortunate coincidence was we had a very bad crash on I-81 just yesterday in which a passenger vehicle crossed over and hit a tractor trailer head on. And I don't know as of this morning the status of injuries, but I know that there were some serious injuries as a result of that crash. But we mentioned to the Secretary that we would like to see some follow-through on the resolution and request that we made to PennDOT back in April for the installation of cable median barriers where they make sense all along Interstate 81. We've had 4 deaths that have occurred this year alone as a result of crossover crashes on I-81. And I think all my colleagues in a comment as well, but I think the Secretary is very receptive to our concern. We share the fact that this is not only the concern of the County Board of Commissioners, but also of our Capital Region Council of Governments and many of our local municipalities who have also passed resolutions calling for the installation of cable median barriers on I-81, and our first responder community who have been very active in terms of on this issue. So we'll see what comes of the meeting we had yesterday. And again, I think it was beneficial that all 3 of us at the board were there to meet with the Secretary.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was the tone I got from Secretary Richards was positive. I think she understands the problem. I believe she indicated she was a county commissioner at one time, so she knows what we're dealing with. The good news is with the third lane in each direction being added on I-81 from approximately the 581 exit to the Mechanicsburg exit. I believe she advised us that those barriers will be included, which is great news, but we also emphasize there's other areas that these need to be placed on remaining on. But it was good to have all three of us there. I think that made an impression on her. So I too thank my colleagues for joining together on a very important issue. It's not going to go away unless we keep pushing it.
I just add to, I thought the secretary and the staff members demonstrated a great deal of responsiveness and actual enthusiasm for the topics that were discussed. And I think it was time well spent. I think it was very nice that they certainly made time available to us. We had an opportunity as well to discuss very briefly some other topics, including transit regionalization and some other new initiatives that PennDOT's working on. So it was a very nice opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. I'd like to report on executive sessions October 12th.
I do have one other item I'd like to bring up under other business when we get there. Is that,
That's not yet.
not yet? Okay.
Okay. So, we're going to report on the executive sessions October 12th, 2016 at 11 a.m. October 19th, 2016 at 12 p.m. regarding personnel issues. Also requesting executive session following this meeting regarding personnel issues. Now, other business.
Mark just snuck out. I was going to potentially put him on the spot.
He was reading your mind, Jim.
Not just in time. Okay, and you know, I hesitated to even bring this up, but I think it's important. We're in the midst of a very highly charged presidential election year, and, where the integrity of our voting system, not only here but nationwide, has been brought into question. And I think it's important, to the extent that we can, that we address the inaccuracy and misinformation that is being spread around with respect to our voting system. I was very upset this morning when I read, as part of the Patriot News coverage of the debate last evening, that they interviewed Jeffrey Lord, who apparently is a CNN political analyst and also Donald Trump supporter who lives in, I guess he lives in East Pennsburg Township, even though he has a Campbell address. But he made a comment in today's paper that needs to be responded to, I believe. It says here, the CNN political analyst and Campbell resident said he is not concerned about the integrity of his polling place in East Pennsburg Township, but is concerned about electronic voting. And this is, quote, a paper ballot, which when marked, is unmistakably marked physically, Lord said. No one who votes knows for sure when they tap the screen for a candidate that the vote is registered that way. And then he went on with a follow-up question. And what about hacking? Okay. And I think it's important for us to point out that none of our voting machines are at all in any way connected to the internet. There is no way that the voting machines can be tampered with by any hacking or otherwise interfered with. We have taken, and I'm sure all of the other counties and the state as a whole, we've taken precautions to secure and maintain the integrity of our voting system here in Cumberland County. And I am just concerned about the misinformation that is being generated by those with some kind of political motivation. So in any event, I think that the voters of Cumberland County can be assured that first of all, their votes will be counted, and secondly, that the integrity of our voting system here in Cumberland County is sound.
Is there any other business?
I want to mention, just in response to that, I guess, I don't think any of us are pleased to see the manner in which the issue of potential voter fraud has been handled by anyone in this election. But, you know, I think if nothing else, it has drawn some immediate attention to the fact that this is the most important thing we do in our free society. And like probably any other thing in this life, there are ways to undermine and corrupt it. And we try to take every safeguard possible. I don't feel comfortable saying that there's absolutely no possibility. Commissioner Herzog raises a good point. Our machines are not connected to the internet. We believe that provides at least protection from that potential type of fraud. But there are many types of vote fraud that take place around the globe. And it's like anything in life. You put something in place and somebody will find a way around it. So I think it's good that we're alert to it. I think I'm going to use that opportunity to say I still think the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has made a grave mistake in that we do not allow for paper backups, as many states allow in our electronic voting system. And to raise that, personally, when we as a board met with Secretary of the Commonwealth Cortez, who oversees the election issues, and his response, unfortunately, was the stereotypical response that basically said anybody who even raises an issue like that is peddling in crackpot theories and conspiracies. And I don't think it's an issue that should be dismissed so out and out. If other states see a need for a paper backup to protect against not only fraud but problems, in this county, we had a significant election issue just a number of years ago, a decade perhaps, with the electronic scanner system. And we were told that was foolproof. And as it turned out, on election night, our votes were being registered as Ds and the D votes were being registered on Rs on one of the scanners. And it did impact the outcome of an election. We had to go through actually 3 recounts to finally hand recounts to reach a determination. And of course, we were told those were foolproof. And now, once again, whatever we're being told is foolproof. I think people have a right to question whether the system is as accurate and as safeguarded as it needs to be. And we certainly would have one additional significant safeguard if the Commonwealth would allow for a paper backup. Let me be clear on this. The paper backups that are allowed in other states do not trace a vote to a voter. So there's no compromise of the individual's right to secret ballot. But it does allow for a series of checks that help ensure whether these relatively complex machines are functioning as they should function. And personally, my belief is until this country, this Commonwealth, is willing to have a discussion on this issue rather than simply demonizing everyone who raises the question, we are not going to be able to build the type of confidence that we need from our electorate that this system is indeed perhaps not secure, but secure enough. And I hear it at the national level now, and it's just deja vu, because even when we transitioned to electronics here and I raised these concerns, we had county staff members who frankly name-called me for simply raising what are points that any citizen, and certainly any elected official, should be allowed to raise. It certainly appears to a lot of people that this issue in general is being whitewashed, wallpapered over, and that only increases the suspicion among people rather than diminishes it. So I think, if nothing else, once this horrible election is over, perhaps we will graduate to a point of reason and responsible behavior that we can have a discussion on what the future of election systems and what rigorous security for our elections looks like, and what we have to do to ensure that and ensure the public's confidence that their vote will matter, and therefore it won't be an excuse, an unworthy excuse for people to stay home because they have concluded their vote won't count. So let's get past this, let's have that discussion. And I certainly hope the state, hopefully under more responsible leaders someday, will be willing to entertain the idea of the paper backup on its electronic voting machines rather than dismissing it out of hand and engaging in this type of demonization behavior raises questions on the current situation.
If you'll allow me, just one quick follow-up, and I agree, Gary made reference to the previous electronic voting system that we had in the county, where folks, essentially filled out a paper ballot, and then put it in a canister, and then it was brought back to be scanned, and that system in particular didn't prevent overvotes, and there were some other, issues with respect to that system. And I believe that's what Mr. Lord was referring to when he said that was a better system, when he said paper ballot, which when marked is unmistakably marked physically. We moved now into the, computer system, and we have the screen version of balloting. And I think it's important to point out, because I talked with the predecessor of our Bureau of Elections and also with our new director, but we don't have any instance whatsoever of in-person voter fraud that has ever been uncovered that I'm aware of. I just think that a lot of the discussion that has been generated here, is a threat to our representative democracy in that it's questioned, the integrity of our voting system. And I think that, by and large, the integrity of our voting system here in Cumberland County. And listen, hey, as a Democrat, okay, I'm on the short end of this stick a lot of times in this county, but I don't believe that that's the result of any voter fraud. So, a lot of our Democratic candidates come up short many times. I don't know that Mr. Ward would really suggest that all of the Republican votes that are going to be cast on November 8th are fraudulent. From Cumberland County. So, as we anticipate, what we need to do in the upcoming election, I think it's important to point out that anybody who interferes, intimidates somebody's exercise of their voting right, that's subject to a fine of up to 2 years and or a $5,000 fine or both, a jail term of up to 2 years and or a fine of up to $5,000 or both. So, all I'm saying is that when misinformation is presented from a national celebrity who happens to live in our county, where he suggests that our voting system can be hacked, I think that we need to call it out. There's no way it can be hacked.
I would feel bad if I didn't have anything to comment on.
I'll say.
But my colleagues bring up outstanding points. And to add to that, I think one thing that could help everybody out is to have a voter ID. Driver's license, a social security card, some type of ID that I think would help reduce voter fraud. I mean, when I go on to Wegmans and have to buy a 6-pack of adult beverages, I have to show my driver's license, and I'm somewhat over 21 years old. I don't mind doing that. To me, if I go to the polls and hey, prove your identification, sir, no problem. I think that would reduce a lot of potential fraud. I don't see that happening in Cumberland County. I think the chances of your vote being calculated correctly are outstanding, though I certainly agree with Commissioner Eichelberger on the paper backup process, because as Jim said, our voting machines are not connected to the internet. If somebody's going to hack them, it's going to be somebody from internal to do that. That's not going to happen. But, in today's age, anytime,
That can't even happen internally, though.
anytime you can get on the computer and get on the internet, people are tracking you. It's just crazy, and we need to make sure we as a country have insurances in place that any type of fraud or abuse may not be completely eliminated, but it can certainly be reduced to a point where people's fears are put to rest. And in closing, and to move on, I just hope everybody will get out and exercise their right to vote. I don't care who you vote for, get out and vote. We live in a country that, there are countries you can't vote. And what's been going on in this last election, I'm not going to comment on one candidate or the other, but it is important, despite what's going on, to get out